Hello YouTube and hello viewers and welcome back to yet another episode of creating our online community project. My name is Wayne and I've been taking you for all these amazing episodes so far in creating our massive online project. Today's session is going to be all about getting our multiplayer system working, so we're going to jump into quite a few different things. I'm not too sure how long this lesson will be. Hopefully I'll keep it under 20 minutes, but if it does go a little bit over, I do apologize. It's just I want to try and get everything all sorted in this session today. First of all, I want to apologize for not producing over the last 2 days. My daughter decided to start a YouTube channel, so I've been setting her up with her own channel and etc. She's only 8, but she decided that she wants to do little bedtime stories and put them onto YouTube and things. So I've been trying to help her with all that type of stuff because she's just got her laptop and all sorts of things in her room. So she's really happy with that one. So without further ado, let's get ourselves started with the session. So where we left off last is we got to the point of pretty much creating our widgets. So we had the server browser widget up and running, our main browser all up and running, and everything was pretty much up and running to work with. So what we need to do now is we need to code out everything so everything starts working how we want it to do. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go into our game instance. Now this is the very first thing we're going to look at in this session because we're going to hold everything inside our game instance. So if you remember, the game instance was holding our user information. We're going to do the same for our multiplayer system. So we're going to create a few things inside here. So what we could do is we're going to create a custom event. So a custom event. And we're going to have 2 of these. The first one's going to be called make a game. Right? So the users will be able to make themselves a game so their friends can join and etc. So we'll have that. And we also need another custom event. So another custom event. And that one's going to be join server. So they'll be able to obviously join servers. Let me just turn my friends thing off. Apologies, I keep forgetting to do this every time I start a session. Go on to friends, and let's just turn that offline for now so it doesn't keep popping up. Okay, so these obviously are going to be in the game instance. We're going to call these later on inside our user interfaces or our widgets that we have, but we need to sort of put some information into them. So the first one we're going to work with is the make game, and we're just going to drag off this node and we're going to say create session. Okay, so basically this will create a session that users will be able to join. The player controller is obviously going to be get player controller. It's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to get the player controller. Apologies, that was YouTube, someone commenting. Okay, public connections. So basically this is how many people can connect to the server, I think. I normally just set this to 2. You could set it to 16. I don't see this actually working correctly because more people can connect to the session, so I'm unsure what this actually does as a whole piece. So let's just leave it at 2 for now, just so we can work with it at a 2 level. And basically what we want to do is on success, we want to then open up a level. Now remember, we're following sort of like a H1Z1 thing, so we can have a lobby. We'll set that up in a minute. So just expand that down for now. And then if it fails, let's just print a string off. So the user knows, or we know for debugging, you'd put this into a text box or something, but we just want to say didn't work. So didn't work. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to make a level. So we're just going to pop over to our main menu, go into our maps, and we're going to make a new level. So file, new level, and let's just have it as a default level. I'm just going to go file and save, just so we can give it a name. I'm just going to call this lobby. Okay, so all the players will be able to connect into this level map, and then what we'll do is in further tutorials we'll set up a timer depending on how many people are on the level, and then we'll send them all off into the other map, is obviously where they'll all play and kill each other and do all the good things. Okay, so the level name is going to be lobby. So LOBBY. And remember, caps count, so just be very wary about that. And what I did is I just expanded this down, make sure absolute is ticked, and the option we want to have is listen, because what we're doing is we're making a listen server, so this is basically you'd make one and people will join you. We're also going to make dedicated servers, and I'll show you how to do that, obviously, in future videos, so don't panic for now. We're just making pretty much just a server that your friends can join for now, and then obviously once we have dedicated ones, we can get them running. Okay? So that's pretty much that. Let's comment that out, and we're going to say can make a game. Oh my goodness. All right, so we can make a game. All right. The next one we're going to do is the join server. Now, this one needs to have an input, and basically this input's going to be things that are going to revolve around the session, which is built in. So we have blueprint session, so we can make a new input. We're going to call this one, we'll have search results for now, because basically this is going to work in our server list. So we'll just have it as search result, just makes it a little bit more easy to understand. And as the type, we're going to have blueprint session result. Very important that you choose this one. And basically that has all the sessions that you need. So just compile and save that. And all we need to do, this is very simple. We're going to drag off here. I'm going to say join session. So join session. The player controller is going to be the player controller. So we're just going to get player controller. So get the player controller. And the search results, so these ones here, is basically this. So we're just going to plug those in. All right, so basically, we're going to call this custom event in our server button. So basically, they'll be able to click on it, and then it will join into that session that we put into this section, so into the server result. Okay, let's compile and save. Let's just comment that out. And we can say player can join session. Okay, so the player can join the session. And that's pretty much all we have to do for the game instance. Now, this is very simple. This is not really advanced. I mean, you could go crazily into this, but for now, we're just making it very simple to make the system work. And then obviously in future videos, we can make it a little bit more complex. Now that's all set up. Let's go into our widgets. And the first widget we want to use is going to be our main menu widget. So open that up. Oh, I don't know why they're there. Let's delete those out. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to do this one so the player can start a game. So let's give it a name. I've already named mine. I've called mine Start Multiplayer. Yours might just be some weird numbers in here. I'd suggest naming it. It makes a little bit more sense. So make sure you do put that in. Okay, and all we're going to do is inside, once you click the button, go down, and we're going to say on click. So when we click this button, something's going to happen. And basically what's going to happen is we're going to cast to our game instance. Right, so we're going to cast the game instance, and we're going to get our game instance. So we're going to get that. And our next step after that is we then just going to call what we made in our game instance. So this make game. So make game. And plug that in. And that's as easy as it gets. So we're going to comment that out and say, player can start game when click the button. Okay, compile and save. Okay, so our next one that we have to do is we then can go onto our server widgets. So we go back to our designer, and we want to now go to our servers. So again, we can go, I've named mine server list. Again, you can call it whatever you like. On clicked. And now we're just going to set up some information to get onto our server list. And to do this, we're going to remove all the widgets that we have on the screen. So we're going to remove all the widgets. Okay. And then we're just going to create a widget. So create widget, if I can spell correctly. So we're going to create a widget. And basically, the owning player is quite simple. Get owning player. The class that we want is the widget with the server list. So make sure you select the correct one. We want to add that to the viewport so the user can see that. So add to the viewport. Return value is going to go into the target. And then we want to set the input mode for the user. So say input mode, game, and UI. All right, so basically they'll be able to interact with the screen. And what we need to plug in here is we're going to plug in the widget into the widget for focus. Now remember, we try and sort our stuff out, so we just clean it up a little bit by just double clicking on the node lines, just to clean it up just a little bit. And we need to put the target in, which is the owning player. So we're just going to drag the owning player and plug him into the target. Let's just double click to make a reroute node and just place it down here. I need to move this down a little bit more. Oh, come on. Let's move it down just a little bit. Okay, and the last thing that we need to do is we need to set the mouse cursor. So set mouse. Now you'll notice it doesn't show, but if we undo the context sensitive, you can see we can set show mouse cursor, and we want that to be on. And the target, we're just going to come off this node and plug it in. Okay, so basically that's just setting up the viewport so we can see the server list. So let's comment that. Click click button to see server list. Okay, so let's just see if that's working. Compile and save. Let's just play that in an edit window. That'll do for now. So let's play that and let's see what happens. Oh, damn. I've got the lobby open for some strange reason. Remember, always open up your main menu if you're testing. And I've got it open to 2 for some strange reason. And let's try again. Alright, so YouTube and YouTube. Log in. And obviously all the information populates as we want it to populate. Then if we click on online servers, it should take us to our servers menu. Oh, I can't go back now. Oh man. And then obviously if we click on start game, I'll do it again. Apologies. YouTube and YouTube. Let's log in again. And if we click on start MP game, that should start up the session. And obviously we're now inside that map. And obviously no one else has joined that session because we haven't set that up yet, but we can do that pretty easily. Okay. So our next step, what we need to look at is we're going to then move on to our server list. Okay, so we need to move on to our server list. So let's go back to our blueprints, go into our widgets, and let's open up our server list. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to code this button here, so the refresh button. The refresh button is going to allow us to, basically once we click that button, it will populate the list. For your extra work, if you want to do it at home, you could set it up so on event begin play or something like that, it will populate itself. But for now, we're just going to do it on the click of this button. So let's just name it refresh. So we just call it refresh. Oh, I wasn't on the button. It's called refresh button already. Now we need to do on click event. Now, before we start doing anything, we need to make 2 functions. Okay. Functions are done here. Now, basically, we can call these functions when we need them. And pretty much like a custom event, but we can make a certain code go in there so we don't need to repeat it over and over again. So the first function we want to do is we want to get the status of the server. So we're going to say get status. So basically, this is going to show us if there are any servers or anything. We need to add a reroute node. Reroute node. Add, oops, sorry, not a reroute node. Return node. And when your brain's gone scrambled, it's a return node. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to make a variable, and basically this is going to hold our status message. So we're going to have status, and that's going to be of a string. Yeah, why not? Keep it as a string, and we're just going to drag that on as a get, and basically we're just going to plug that into there, into our output. Okay, so that's our output node. Then we need to make another function. Okay, so the other function is we're going to return how many servers it's found. Even though we don't have the text field there, we can put it in later on. So it might be good to show how many servers it can actually see. So if you ever do anything like filters or anything in your system, this could be a good idea. So we're going to have found servers as integers. Right, so we're going to found servers as an integer because that's what we're going to have. A variable, and we're just going to call this found s for short, for found servers, and that's going to be of a integer because we just called it integer. And we do the same thing. Get that. We need to have a return node, not reroute, and we're just going to plug that in just underneath like that. Oh no, we can't do that. Oh, come on, because the reroute needs to come back as a string. Sorry, as a text field. So we'll plug that in like that. Okay, and I think I need to do the same with here. Yes, because it's not text. Dope. Let's just change this to a text and just plug that in. There we go. Compile and save. And now we go back to the event graph. And now this is where it starts to get extremely crazy. Okay, now inside this section is basically we need to work out what we have inside the server row. All right, so we'll populate that in a minute, but basically we want to return all the information of all the servers that are being made within a session, and basically we wanted to put all the servers in a list inside that scroll box. Okay, So first things first, we need to put a loop in. So if you don't know how to do that, if you hold down F and click, you'll make a for each loop. And now you can see we need an array. Now that array is going to be an array of our S row. So we want to make an array of these so we can make loads of them that pop up depending on how many servers are currently in the system. Okay, so to do that, we need to make a new variable. And this variable is going to be called server widget. Makes sense if we call it server widget. Actually, yeah, servers widget. Okay, and that's going to be a variable type of widget underscore s row and a reference. Okay, so remember we called it widget s rows. We're just going to search for that, and we're going to turn that into an array because it's going to be stored more than one value inside that server. So it's important that we have that. So I'm going to drag that off. I'm going to get that, and we're just going to plug it into the array. Okay, and then what we're going to do is when we loop the body, we need to remove the child. Now we're going to have to turn off context sensitive for this. All right, so we're going to remove the child. And basically what we want to remove is anything that we're going to have inside the scroll box, so inside here. Okay, so whatever's in the scroll box. Now I've called it scroll servers. You can call it whatever you like. Very important that you do call it something and make sure it's ticked as a variable because we need to use it. All right, so if yours is not ticked, please do tick it. So go back to the graph, and we're just going to drag our scroll servers off. We're going to get that, and we're going to plug that into our target because that's where we want to grab into. All right, and we want to put everything that we have in the array into that server. All right, so into that scroll box. All right, so that's pretty much that for that section. But what we need to do now is we need to have a complete, and if it's complete, we need to clear some information from our array. So this array here. All right, so we need to clear. And basically, this is when we start setting all the information to come into our server list. So we're going to get our status, and we're going to set that. Now we could put a throbber in if we wanted to, but for now, we're just going to set the text to be searching for games. All right, so we're going to set it as that. So it's going to look for some games. And how's it going to do that? Well, it needs to find sessions that are currently in play. So we're going to find some sessions. And the player controller is obviously going to get player controller. Okay, so we're going to get the player controller. Now this is depending on how many results we want to come back. Let's just have 50. Not that we're going to have 50 games populated inside the scroll box, but that will be the max amount that will be shown. Right, so that will be how many we would see. And basically, this is where the crazy stuff happens. So what we need to do now is we need to get a result and a success. Now, what we need to have is we need to start, remember that blueprint we called in our game instance, this search result, okay? Now, we're not going to be doing a search result, but we still need that blueprint, but we also need it as an array. So we're going to make a variable, and we're going to call this one found sessions, we'll just blueprint for now. Okay, so found sessions blueprint. And again, it's still going to be an array, but remember we had to use blueprint session results because we want all the sessions to come back. I'm going to drag that off, and we're going to set all the results into that session. So it's going to, basically, it's going to capture every single session that's been made for us when it's been successful. Okay? And basically what we need to do then is we need to get some information. So we're going to set our found servers. So we're going to get our numbers. So how many did we have? And we're going to work off our results down here in a second. And we also need to set our status. And we'll come to all the little nitty-gritty stuff at the bottom. And then the last bit is going to pop into a for each loop again. All right, so just make sure you got that all set up. And then we'll start working on this on the bottom piece. So what we need to work out is we need to find out how many servers we've got through this result. Then we need to find out a status for the server, so how many. So we're going to say, for example, found servers of so many. Okay, and then we're going to do another loop. And that's basically going to be able to pull information that we need in regards to our widget and adding all our stuff into that widget. So what we need to do is on the result, we're going to get the length. So the length, if if I can spell correctly, so the array length. And you can see quite easily I can plug that into that, so I can already find out how many servers I've got. Then we're going to come off our status here, and we're just going to do an append. Oops, not append array. We're going to append. So a string append. And basically we're going to say there are space that many add append space servers. Okay, so there's that many servers of the value that we retrieve, and that's going to be set as our status. And then we're going to have another one, which is going to come off here. Okay, because we're going to have to do a little bit of a branch to work out if it's true or false. So if we've got no servers, then obviously do something. But if we have got servers, then we need to start populating our widget. Okay, so let's just do our branch quickly. So B and click, plug it into here, and we want to work out, have we not got any servers? Right, so if there are no servers, then we're going to do something. But if there is more, then no servers, then do something. So come off here, equal to. Let's turn our context sensitive back on. So our integer is equal to and equal to. So if it is equal to 0, all right, so if it's equal to 0, then obviously we're going to say no servers found. So we can set our text, our status, and we're just going to say no servers found. Okay, so no servers found. If it's false, however, so if we've got a false one, we could say, sorry, we need to set again, so just copy this and paste. So if it's false, we can say, I don't know, everything's working fine. So this is basically just for us for debugging. So everything is working fine. Obviously, you won't have that printing or setting, but this is just a nice debug for us. Okay. Now, obviously, we need an array to plug in here. Now, we've already got an array. If we go all the way back, remember we set our array here for our sessions. We're going to plug that into this array. Now, we're just going to fix it up a bit. So we're just going to reroute some stuff around, like so. So basically, we set our blueprint session, and then we're going to get the array of all the sessions. Okay. And what we're going to do is on our loop, this is when we're going to start adding all the servers. All right, so this is when we're going to start adding all the servers into our widget. So we can do another status. Why not? All right, and we can say adding servers. All right, so this will just print off if it's starting to add servers into our system. We're going to create our widget. All right, so basically the widget we're going to start constructing is going to be this now. So we're going to start constructing all of these into our server list. So we want our class to be our S row. Right, so we did make this. So it is the S row. And the owning player, right, so the owning player is we're going to go all the way back to getting our player controller, or we could just go off here and just say get player controller here. We could do that as well. If you don't want to reroute everywhere, you could do that as well. But I like rerouting, so I'm just going to do it as a reroute. So I'm just going to go all the way across, plug that in, double click, and just make it look nice and neat. Okay. So once that's complete, so once we've got that all working, basically we want to then set our current session. Now we don't have that, and we're going to set it up now. So basically that current session is going to be all the information in regards to our server. So in our S row, and we're going to set it up right now before we can continue with this bit. Okay, so let's just compile and save for now, and let's go into our S row. All right, so I want you to open that up now. Okay, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to, in our S row, let's go into our graph, and we're going to set up some functions. Now these functions are basically just going to get information to populate these, so server name, that number, and obviously our ping. Okay, so we need to set those up. So actually, let's not do it this way, because that might confuse some of you. I've been doing it this way. So let's go into the designer, click on our server name, and we're going to bind a new binding. So let's just give that a new name. Let's call that server name. And this is how easy it is. All right. So we need to have a variable, and that variable needs to be everything to do with our server. So we can have current server info, and that's again towards our blueprint of our session result. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to drag this off. We want to get it, and we can get some information in regards to servers. If I just drag off, look here, if I say get, you can get current players, max players, ping, and server name. We want to get the server name and plug that in to our return node. Okay? Pretty straightforward, I think. Compile and save that. Then we need to do the same for our player count. So we're going to bind, create binding, do exactly the same thing again. Drag off here, get, and this is a little bit more tricky. So we're going to get our current players, but we also want to get our max players. And what we want to do is we want to append off here, if I can. Obviously not, so I'm going to just right click and append for now. Append. And we're going to say the current players, add pin. Then we're going to forward slash there, sorry. And we're going to plug, delete that, and plug that value into there. So it's going to say we've got 5 players, if there's 5 players already playing, out of the max players for that server. Right? And remember, we set the max players way ago to just the value of 2. So let's plug that in, compile and save. And the last one we need to do is the ping. So just click on that, and we're just going to go to bind, create a binding, and we're just going to call that. Sorry, I didn't name that one. I'm just going to call that ping. Again, we're going to grab our server information. We're going to get that, and we're going to drag off this node, and we're going to get ms, so the ping, and we're just going to plug that into the value. Compile and save. Okay, pretty straightforward. Everything to do with all the information that we need. The only thing we need to do is also get the current session, so the session that everyone's in. So make another function. Now this is not attached to anything. So yeah, this is not attached to anything. So set current session. And basically all we have to do is just set this into there. But you'll notice we've got nothing plugging into here because we need to make an import of our current server to come into this section. So we're going to make an input into here. I'm going to have current server because basically everything's going to be on the server. And again, this is going to be a blueprint session result. And we're just going to drag that into there. Compile and save. Pretty straightforward. So 4 functions. One to set up the sessions, just to set it all up. Then we have obviously our ping. So basically we send all the information into here. Obviously the player text information and the server name. That's everything that we need for that section there. Okay. And the last thing we need to do is just make sure that the button, so when we click on this button, it's going to join our session. So if we go unclicked, right, no, should really name that button. And we're just going to cast to our game instance, to game instance, YouTube. The object's going to be the game instance, if I can spell. So get the game instance. And all we need to do is we just need to join the server. Now we have that because that we made this here. So join server inside our game instance. The target's going to be this. All right, so we're going to target that in. And all we need to do is get our current server information and plug that into our search result. Hence why we needed this search result. So basically it's going to connect into the search result and we're going to join that session from there. Okay, so just compile and save. You can comment that if you want. So button to join server. Oh, actually, we could have it as servers. That makes more sense because this controls every single server that's on there. Okay, so now we need to go back to our server list. Right, so we need to go back to our server list. So let's go back to our server list here, and we're going to continue working off this bit here. Now remember, what we did is on our server row, remember on our current session, we set a session, right? So we set this current server information. That's what we need now coming off our server list, right? So we're gonna come off here. I'm gonna say set current session, right? So we're gonna set that current session. I'm gonna turn the value into the target, but now we need information for our server. And all of that is inside this array. So inside this for each loop. I'm going to plug that in to our current server. I'm just going to drag that down just to make it a little bit more neater. Okay, so the array element plugs into our current server. And basically, this is going to set all the information for our server. And now all we need to do is just add everything in. So we just drag off this section. I'm going to start adding everything into our scroll box. So we're going to add. Obviously, we're going to need an array element, and that array element is going to come from our, we'll come back to that array in a minute. Actually, let's do it now. So we've got the found widgets, our server widgets. So we're going to get that, and we're going to plug that into the array. Right, so that's all our widgets. Okay. Then we need to have our server. So we're going to get that. I'm going to plug that into there. So we're going to fill up. Oh, sorry, I'm stepping ahead of myself here. I forgot that we need to add the return of what we get from the widget. So our return is going to plug into the add. So that's going to return all the values into our scroll box. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is then add child. So add the child. Turn off context sensitive. I'm going to add a child to the panel. So add the child to the panel. And the panel we want to fill up is going to be the scroll stuff, so all the scroll server information. And the content that we need is stuff from the widget again. So we can just drag off this node and plug it in. Let's make it all nice and neat by double clicking and set that up there. Compile and save. And that should be everything working now in regards to getting our multiplayer up and running. So let's test it out, shall we? So the best idea to test is we're going to, now bear in mind we're working with Steam, so when you have two game windows open, sometimes it doesn't work correctly in regards to grabbing information, but once they standalone clients, so when you cook them, so when you package them up, it will work perfectly fine, but for now we have to just stick with it. So on your new edit window, we're going to set the number of players to 2, okay, and then we can run that. And basically, we'll get 2 windows that will show. So you can see 2 windows here. So we've got 2 windows. I'm just going to log this one in. So YouTube and YouTube. I'm going to log that in. Okay. And I'm just going to start the multiplayer game off this one. All right, so I'm going to start that one straight away. And if I go into this one and type in YouTube 2, log in. Now, this is why Steam doesn't like it, because now you're, oops, what have I done wrong? YouTube 2. I'm sure I made all these accounts before. There we go. So you'll notice it's not pulling the results because I'm using 2 clients and the JSON can't pull 2 results at the same time. So don't worry about that. But once they're standalones, that will work fine. And if we go on our online servers, hit the refresh button, we should see all the servers that should pop up, hopefully. There we go. So we can see that it's called Wayne's PC. That's my name, obviously. We can set that up to later on to fix that up. It can only have 1 or 2 players, but more people can connect anyways than 2 players. And it's got a ping of 34. So if I click on that, I'm now inside the game. So if I just walk around, you can see I'm walking around the server and the client is connected. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Quite a crazy session today. Apologies for the length and how long it was in regards to the session itself. Hopefully you find this interesting and getting it to work. Obviously, we're going to improve the system a lot more than it is, but this is just so you can get it working and you can see that the multiplayer is working, that you can connect to your friends inside that section, and you can see the amount of servers that are currently there. Obviously, when you send this out to your friends, very important. If you send this out to your friends, you've got to make sure whoever's running the server needs to make sure that port 7777 is open. All right, so port 7777 is open because that's default for Unreal. So it's port 777, or is it 777? It's either 3 sevens or 4 sevens. I can't remember quite correctly, but if you do send it off, please make sure you do open those ports. Again, thank you very much for joining me. My name is Wayne. It's been lovely taking you for this video. I know it's been super long, but at least we got the multiplayer system up and running, and now we can start working with replication and all that cool stuff to make things start happening inside our game. Thank you very much. Remember, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you really like this, then obviously share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. And if you really, really like my channel, you want to support me, don't hesitate to drop a donation to the channel. Again, thank you very much, and it was nice taking you for the session, and goodbye.